There we go. We are. All right. And we can get started. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times, episode 12. Maryam, hey, we made it to a dozen. This is pretty good stuff.
Amazing. It's been so much fun. Yeah.
6 weeks in. It's 12 shows, and we almost know what we're doing now. I think we're getting pretty darn good at this.
Definitely. It's been a pleasure being your co-host.
Aw, and I reciprocate that. It's been a pleasure with you on Thursdays and Reza, of course, on Tuesdays. For those of you who don't know me, I am Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver, which is one of over 40 community chapters of Startup Canada across the country. And Startup Canada is the voice of the over 3.5 million entrepreneurs in this great country of ours. So on today's show, I am going to make some quick introductions here and community announcements. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And let me know, Maryam, if I've got the right screen here. Sometimes it jumps over to presentation mode. You see a smiling upside down woman there? Is that all you see on the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So we're going to go with that. So, hey, we've switched it up a little bit here. We had our cat hanging there before, but now we're changing this up. And we always start with, are you hanging in there? How's everybody doing? As, gosh, this is like 3 months now that the world's been turned upside down here with COVID and everything that's going on locally and globally. So I want to make sure that everybody is taking care of themselves, that you're staying engaged, that you're staying active, and hoping that what we do here with this live stream show twice a week is our way of providing not only information and inspiration, but also a bit of levity and also a bit of joy here, that we try to keep it a little bit on the light side too in this fast-paced half-hour show that we have. So with that, Startup Vancouver, best way to connect with us is through social media. So whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and also now we are on YouTube. And all the previous episodes, we record them all, including this one, which we'll post later today or tomorrow. So if you missed some, please go back. We've got all 11 previous ones on there, and we've had some fantastic conversations, and they're going to keep on rolling. And today we are going to have 2 fantastic conversations to add to our collection. But before we do that, I want to put it out there to everyone that is attending today, both on our Zoom live stream here and also Facebook Live, that if you have any questions, please put it in the comments, please put it in chat, and we're happy to ask them, or we can open up the mic if you want to ask the question yourself. So we want to make this an interactive half hour of conversation. All right. So today, we have 2 wonderful guests here. So we have Ragwha Gopal, who is the president and CEO of Innovate BC. We're going to learn about all the wonderful things that they are doing as an organization, and also all the entrepreneurs and innovators that they support. And this is going to be a great chance to actually get a snapshot through the lens that Ragwha has the opportunity to see things through. And also we have Andrew Crawford, who is the founder and COO of Origen Air Systems Limited. And Maryam is going to open up the show with a conversation with Andrew, and then I'm going to follow that up with a conversation with Ragwha. As we always do, we have a really impactful charity partner that we love to support, and that is jack.org. And jack.org is an advocacy group that supports mental health awareness for youth right across the country as a grassroots organization. If people sign up for Eventbrite, we do have the option to donate. And today we've had, I believe we've had 1 donation. So as I always do, when someone is kind enough and generous enough to donate to jack.org, I do a little musical shout out, which I will do at the end of the show. So brace yourself for that. So with Innovate BC, if those that do not know what they do and why they do it, I'll have Ragwha really give the elevator pitch for that, but you can see from there with the funding expertise and connections that they power innovation and growth all across the province of British Columbia. And with Origen Air, we're going to have Maryam, as I mentioned, talk to Andrew to find out all the good things that they're doing over at Origin Air, and also how Andrew is managing to survive and thrive during these challenging times. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to hand it over to my fabulous co-host, Maryam. Maryam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Colin. Welcome, Andrew. It's so nice to have you here. I really want to explore the topic of decision making with you. And as you know, we're creatures of habit, and we default to what feels familiar, safe, and controllable. So sort of like 80% of our decisions are made subconsciously. And right now we're in this uncertain time, and I really want to know tell us definitely a little bit about what you're up to and how do you go about making decisions every day since this whole COVID has started.
Sure. Great to meet you virtually. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting time. But to be totally honest with you, to be a clean tech founder and then being in COVID, like the two are, I think the only differences I'm noticing is people wear masks and there's longer lineups at the grocery store. The life of a startup clean tech founder is very insular. You're always kind of working in your little lab and you're trying so hard to do so many things, but at the end of the day, you're not really out in the world as much as you should be. I think this COVID thing allows a lot of people that aren't in this sector to start to feel what it's like to be in this little cubicle of creation that we spend our time in. But I'll be totally honest with you, the COVID shutdown for us, aside from pumping the brakes on our prototype development, has been mostly a blessing. It's allowed us to really focus on what's important and what we need to do with in the next few months to make sure that we're going to be successful down the road.
Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of your company and what you're working on and how you have made a decision to pivot on which product and why?
Absolutely. Our strong belief with Origin Air is that nature always wins. So irrespective of what's going to happen in the world, nature will always win. And as a result of that, our mission is to empower nature to improve our lives as human beings. Our product and our service is smart air purification. The difference between our product and most of the air purifiers in the world is that ours is actually a living plant. We have genetically enhanced plants that we distribute from the University of Washington. That took them about 15 years to figure the technology out. And to make it in the most simple terms, the plant actually acts the same way that our liver acts inside of our bodies. So when the plant absorbs toxins from the air from cigarette smoke or bus exhaust or all these horrible things that we breathe in every day, instead of choking on it, it eats it, it absorbs it, and it grows as a result. So it's an exciting piece of technology that has been afforded to us by the University of Washington. It is our job now to build these biofilters for offices, for homes, for large industries, anyone. I mean, our target market is people who breathe, which is it's everyone. So it's up to us.
Has COVID changed a bit because of COVID? Has
Absolutely.
it accelerated or?
Yeah, it did. It changed quite quickly. When we were assessing our market, we thought, we really need to be inside offices where indoor air is a big problem. And we figured out how to fix the air, but what we didn't figure out how to fix was the pathogens and the viruses and the things that humans bring in every day. And that got us into probiotics and fogging probiotics into the air so that you can control these threats. So we figured the tech out, we got the product, it was very exciting, and we started to tell people about it, and they're like, yeah, that sounds cool, man, but whatever. And then COVID hit. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, we should pivot hard and fast towards this because we can help a lot of people really quickly. It's cost effective, and most of all, it's safe. Like, this is natural, green, organic. You can spray it in your face, you can drink it. But at the end of the day, it restores that natural balance of health into our built environment. So
I absolutely love it, and would love to have one. I'm wondering, like, I know so far I know about the UV lights, and so we can get into that later. But what I'm curious about is that focusing on the topic of creativity and innovation, and how you get to that flow state that allows you to operate from that moment that okay, this is a decision that I need to make, and this is how if you could elaborate on that, would be great.
Yeah, flow state is a big factor in my life. It's a driving factor. We like to joke a lot of the time that my co-founder is the kid holding the kite and I'm the kite. So I'm always flying off on different ideas and she brings them back to reality and we push forward that way. So lifelong surfer, it's an obsession that goes beyond just the athletic pursuit. It's the mental release I get from being out in the waves. Living where I live now in Victoria, there's not waves every day, so you have to find new ways to get into that mindful state where you're present, you're conscious, and you're only focusing on one or two things at the maximum. So, we've got hiking and biking and free diving and stuff like that. So, a big advocate for the lunch break, getting out there and getting, refreshed. But at the end of the day, it's being mindful of yourself, having a really strong journaling habit, and taking the time to focus on one problem at a time. We have a really prominent saying here at Origen Air. It's don't try and catch all the bunnies all at once. Focus on one bunny and slowly walk towards it and catch it nicely. If you chase all the bunnies, they're going to go everywhere and you're not going to get any of them. So
I love that. Thank you. Colin, how are we doing with time?
We got a couple minutes for some questions here. I see we have a very shy attendees group here today. No questions yet, whereas last time it was just lighting up. But I have a quick question here. With Andrew, I love the bunnies analogy that you had there. And it sounds like you're like me. You don't believe in multitasking. You're more of an unitasker, right? As far as sequencing what you do, and kind of you have other things that are down the road, but you kind of focus on that one. Does that actually come using the metaphor of surfing? You see a kind of a set of waves coming in, and that's, you wait for that set and choosing one wave rather than looking at the entire set that may be coming off on the horizon. Is that a fair analogy to apply to your entrepreneurial take on things?
I think that's what I strive for. I think it's been a deficiency in the past. My usual MO has been do 100 things at once and try and push them all across the finish line. I remember doing some mind mapping when I was doing ECDEV for a First Nation on the coast, and the map took up the entire floor of the condo I was living in. I was like, oh my God. So it's understanding that that's not the most efficient and effective way forward. So now that we're bootstrapping our own company, it's focused, it's pragmatic, and it's putting out the biggest fire first and make sure it's out before you go after the next one.
Got it. Time for one more question. Maryam, do you want one quick follow-up question before we?
There's one question. How does working on, and there's a question from the audience, how does working on founding a beautiful, clean company like Origen Air feel in such a capitalistic, finance-centered world?
Great question, and it's one that we, the topic of this thing is what keeps you up at night, and it's the human capacity to forget problems really quickly, and dirty air is basically invisible for the most part. I think for us, it's focusing on how can we deliver a solution that is cool and it's almost like a status symbol, and it makes everyone feel great and successful. Well, at the same time, it actually solves a big environmental problem. So Tesla is the perfect example, right? If I own a Tesla, people think I'm cool, but I'm also not burning fossil fuels. So our whole intent is to build these beautiful, living, green biofilters that pull horrible things out of the air, make humans healthier. But if you have one, you also look cool. So that's how I deal. Just telling people what to do and telling them they're all going to die, there's no point. I mean, COVID's proved that. You tell people you try and pass laws, they'll just ignore them because they don't want to hear about it. So keep it positive.
Positive. That is
Thank you so much.
a good message. Very simple one and a very a tried and true one during good times and bad to stay positive. So Andrew, Maryam, thanks so much for that. That was I learned a ton there, and love the work that you're doing with Origen Air. So thank you, Andrew, for that. So I do want to move on to our next guest, and that is Ragwha Gopal, who is the CEO and president of Innovate BC. So Ragwha, to open things up, why don't you put on your pitch hat here? Why don't you give us the elevator pitch of what Innovate BC is and why you do what you do?
Thank you, Colin. Happy to be on the show, and I'll do a very quick elevator pitch. So Innovate BC, we're a crown agency of the province of British Columbia. We connect BC's innovators to funding, resources, and support, pretty high level. We work with companies of all sizes in all sectors all across province. We cover the entire province. And our work ensures that BC's innovators, they build companies that start, scale, and stay in British Columbia. Some of the programs that we have, it kind of helps companies get funding. We connect them with experts to help launch their idea. And I'm pretty sure, I actually can guarantee it, most of the audience that we have has already benefited somewhere with one of Innovate BC's programs.
I'm sure they have, and that's a guarantee. You guarantee that. I like that. Put it on the line. Yeah. So Innovate BC has not been kind of impervious to the effects of COVID-19, just like the smallest, scrappiest startup. I know that with your annual BC Tech Summit, sadly, you had to cancel that and had to pivot. Can you tell us, let's say the first couple of weeks or that first month of how you as the leader and your team had to quickly pivot, change, recalibrate all the things that you were doing, and what's come out the other side, and what are the initiatives and platforms that you're supporting and also co-presenting with other organizations out there. So tell us that first tumultuous month. Tell us how March went for you at Innovate BC.
Well, I know it was a pretty disappointing time, especially for the BC Tech Summit. We've been working for over 6 months trying to create this amazing program that would have been on June 1st and 2nd that we had to cancel. So very quickly we had to make the decision, but it took a lot of deliberation to come to that agreement that we'll cancel it. And I'm glad that we did cancel it, because there was no way we could have something, a gathering of 3,500 people that normally comes and attends BC Tech Summit. But what we found very, very quickly, within like days, we were inundated with calls and requests for more help from the ecosystem that we support. So whether it's academia, where we support a lot of research projects, companies that we support in hiring grants, co-op grants, our BC Acceleration Network, we fund 11 accelerators throughout the province. They had to shut down their business as well. Their revenues stopped. So we had a lot of request from them saying, how can you help? So the first month, I would say, was very tense, but we pivoted very, very quickly, just like many other organizations in the province. We expanded our student hiring grants, made it much easier for companies or larger companies that weren't eligible to be eligible for the grant. We've doubled the grants. We went from 2,700 to 5,000 for co-op grants. We went from $5,000 to $10,000 for the hiring grants. Any companies that were doing any COVID research, we made it easy for them to hire those resources. We added 100 seats on with MyTex. We created a new partnership with them to put 100 interns in COVID-related research projects. So put a lot of resources in that. Ignite Awards, like it talked about BC Tech Summit getting canceled. Yesterday we had our Ignite Awards, where we awarded $1.2 million in 4 amazing research projects, but all done virtual. So again, we had to kind of pivot and do things that we still made things work, even though we couldn't meet in place. And then we also support New Ventures Competition. I know Angie Schick, the executive director, was on your podcast a couple of weeks ago. She talked about 5 or 6 companies that are in the competition that are making solutions or providing solutions to COVID. So we're happy to support that. But one of the big things that we use our platform to do is highlight stories about companies of what they're doing, how they're helping the system. There are a lot of large companies. You hear about Accelera, you hear about Traction on Demand, you hear about companies like Terramera as an example. They're always in the news. But what we do is we take companies that may not get that kind of highlight and highlight the work that they do on a weekly basis. You probably follow my LinkedIn, and you see I'm always kind of trying to promote, highlight the real good work for some of those companies that would not get that mention.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here now. I know you can probably choose a dozen or so great stories from companies that have transitioned from small to large ones. Can you quickly give us one example of to shine the light on this, to celebrate a success story that that you're proud of, that Innovate BC has been connected to?
Well, Starfish Medical out of Victoria, they just got good amount of federal funding, so they are creating or building actually 30,000 ventilators for our country. So that will be just basically helping in that space. Metabolic Insights in Kelowna, a company based out of Kelowna, they're doing saliva testing for diabetes. Now they've kind of pivoted, so the non-invasive way of testing for COVID will be very fast and effective. So somebody wants to travel on a plane, instead of taking 24 hours or 48 hours for results, they can use saliva, test you, and within 10 minutes give you a result, whether you're positive or negative. Those are just a few. We have over 200 stories. A company out of Slocan, Drop Manufacturing, that were building sockets, they changed and started building face masks, PPEs for frontline workers. Those are just a few that I wanted to highlight, but I can go on for the entire afternoon.
I was going to say you could probably fill up the next 3 hours with great stories. So the future, how are you looking 3, 6, 12 months? I know that's a really tough question, but even to bring that down already, because it takes 6 months in advance, as you mentioned, to plan the BC Tech Summit. What are you thinking for 2021 already as far as the high level strategy? Would you consider doing that as a virtual event, or are you just going to hold off until you can have it in real life again? So what are you even thinking about that yet, as far as what the possibilities are?
Yeah, we are. I mean, the BC Tech Summit was so well attended, and the impact and outcomes of that particular summit, the collisions, the networking, the educational seminars, events that we had was amazing. So we don't want to lose that momentum. We are starting to think already we will have something, but I can almost guarantee it won't be an in-person event. I don't think 2021 will be ready for it. So we're starting to plan a virtual. So we'll have a virtual event of some sort where we can almost achieve the same things that we wanted to achieve in person. In person is always nice, so I want to preface that with that. But we will do we'll definitely put together a virtual event to try and get a similar kind of outcome and impact.
Got it. Thanks for that. So let's bring it all the way back to you personally. How are you managing over these times? How are you managing to make sure that physically and mentally you're staying active and staying healthy? What is it that you like to do that you could share with us here?
Yeah. I'm very lucky. I'm in Kelowna. I have a home in Kelowna, one office nicely set up, and the good thing is surrounded by family and friends over here, and the weather has been just fantastic. So for me, just to make sure that I have a clear head and healthy and mentally kind of sound, I go for long walks, I go for hikes, just to kind of get away from everything. After working for 7 or 8 hours during the day, if I can take hour and 15 minutes and go on a nice long hike and just kind of clear my mind, that's what I've been doing mainly.
Yeah. Great. Just keep it nice and simple like that. So how about your team? So people understand, they may think, oh, the Innovate BC, they must have 500 employees that are working. How big is your team, and how are you finding that working virtually with them for now, is how that's working?
So we're a team of 20 people. We started a process last year where we were allowing staff to work a day a week from home. So for that reason, we were already set up to be able to work remotely. So when the pandemic hit and we were forced to work from home, really for us, it was a very easy transition. Now I can see companies that had not tried that would have had to probably scramble. But for us, just because we were already in that process, it was very simple to say, okay, you know what? Everybody work from home. Just made sure that every employee was well set up from home. I mean, they had the space, they had the right kind of tools, chairs, ergonomics, and all of that. So we made sure that that was available at home. But by and large, it didn't take us too long to get used to working from home. But we make sure that every employee has a touch on a daily basis, or somebody talks to them every day.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for that. Maryam, do we have any questions in chat, or do you have a question for Ragwha?
Yes, so there's no question in the chat, but I was wondering about with the increase of mental health at this time, or I would like to call it brain health, and also increase in seeing increase of overdose due to using a lot of opioid as well to manage pain. Does Innovate BC, do you see an what kind of support are there for startups who are working around mental health and pain management at this time? And do you see that has increased?
Definitely mental health training and focus on mental health has definitely increased. So like I mentioned before, we have these 11 acceleration network partners, so accelerators in different parts of the province. And all of them, through some of our funding, all of them are actually providing additional help and training in relation to mental health. So they're kind of doing it throughout the province, and we're making sure that it's kind of top of mind for us. Starting right from home, our own staff, and then kind of going down into the ecosystem.
And at what stage would you say is a good time for startups to come join Innovate BC, and what resources are available to them? Is that when they have an idea, or how far along should they be?
I think as soon as they have an idea, they should connect with either Innovate BC, and we can connect them depending on where they are physically located. We have accelerators in all parts of the province, and we'll connect them to the right one. So as soon as they have an idea, either they can connect with us, or if they know the accelerator in their part of the world, they can connect with them. And they will get some really good guidance right at the very beginning. I think it's very important that they connect as soon as possible rather than wait to come later.
I'm always curious about, signing NDAs, and what are your thoughts around that? Is that when entrepreneurs come to Innovate BC, is everything's confidential and the ideas are kept, as confidential, or do you sign NDA with them? What is the process like?
So every what we call executive in residence, so these are advisors. So they sign NDAs, basically adhering to making sure that everything they hear, see, and say is all confidential information. So they sign that with our acceleration partners and us. So when a company as an innovator, if you go and start talking to them, you don't need to worry about it because they're already bound to these NDAs. So you don't have to force them to sign one more on top of it because that's already been taken care of.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about that, ideas are a dime a dozen. It always comes down to execution. And at one point, it's a good idea to share your ideas with others,
Yeah.
I'm always curious about at what point is best, as when you have something to show, or you sometimes you get into the phase where you're just talking about it so much, but not really actualizing it. And then you see that ideas shows up somewhere else.
If you're talking to people externally that are advising or talking to them for funding, angel investors or something, you want to probably keep that a little bit more secretive. But when we go to an accelerator that's part of Innovate BC's programs, you're pretty well assured that all of the advisors, they have already signed NDAs, so you can be fairly open to them about what your business is, so they can guide you very, very well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great.
Colin, so that's all the questions that I have.
Good stuff. And we're right at the top of the hour. So we're going to wrap it up because we like to try to keep it on half an hour here. But before we go, and before Maryam, you wrap up the show for us, I promised, threatened, however you want to take it, to do my musical shout out as we do to those who have donated to jack.org. And it goes something like this. All right. Nice donation by you. Jack.org says, thank you. You are awesome, Kate Karn. Nice donation by you. There you go. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Maryam, over to you to wrap up. Andrew, Ragwha, thanks so much for joining us. And Maryam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Colin, and thank you, Ragwha and Andrew, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure speaking to you, and I would like everyone to join us next Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30, and you can catch this recording later on the Facebook Startup Vancouver, and also on YouTube. You can catch it. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon virtually.
There we go. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.